Welcome back everybody, Dan here. Thanks for joining in for another video. And today's going to be an interesting video. It's kind of surprising to me. It's going to be surprising for you guys, I'm sure, because I'm talking about a title that I thought I would probably never talk about on this channel. And it's really kind of interesting. It's very interesting to me. I mean, I've got a whiteboard over there on the wall that has got a list. It's slammed full of videos that I need to get finished. And this video is not on that. And there's no room on that board for any more videos, but even still, I found this topic to be interesting enough, and I feel like it's important enough that not only did this video make the cut, but it got on top of all those other videos on the whiteboard. So I want to get right into it because I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting, something I want to talk about because it's looking from a perspective that some people may not look some people may not be old enough to look at from that perspective, and then some people may have, like myself, have forgotten. So let's talk about GT Sport. This is not going to be a review. However, I will be discussing several topics here and there of things that I like and things that I do not like about this game. Okay, but it's not a review. So the landscape of gaming, if you're as old as I am, has changed throughout the years. Okay, and I'm not talking about what we thought was realistic back in the day no longer being realistic. I'm not talking about physics and things like that. I'm talking about something different. And it's not really talked about too often. So I thought it would be a neat topic to talk about. I used to be a huge fan of Gran Turismos, the originals, Gran Turismo 1, 2, and 3. Mostly 1 and 2, and those I believe were going to be on PS1 and PS2. It's been so long ago now, I can't remember. That's going to age me, though, for sure. A lot of you watching, I'm sure, are much younger. That does age me. But I loved Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2. The reason why I loved that title was not only it was one of the first games that brought true driving simulators and driving racing games into the masses, into your home, you know, on a global scale, and made it accessible to drive all these kind of cars that you couldn't before. Not only did it do that, but it wanted you, like the developers wanted you to play Gran Turismo in a way that was different than all other racing games, especially now. And so what I want to say, I guess the best way to explain that is when you played Gran Turismo 1, the idea was not like a game of today to collect as many cars as possible, right? It wasn't to go out and you didn't get rewarded for buying 500 cars right off the bat and racing all these different events and putting liveries on cars and big rims and stuff like that. That's not what it was about. Gran Turismo, the series, initially was about starting out with a cheap, inexpensive car like you would in real life, and slowly and gradually building that car up and building a relationship with that one single vehicle and working your way up and building the performance characteristics to that car so that it would continue to perform better and better as you made it through the rookie class and several series as you worked your way up. That was the idea behind Gran Turismo. You know, once it had a mileage counter on the cars. When you started to get high mileage on the car and you drove them hard in races, they would lose horsepower. You'd have to bring the cars to the shop to get them worked on, to get them tuned up, to get the oil changes, to bring that peak horsepower back. There was a car wash. The cars would get dirty. You could clean it. The GT series originally was about bringing you together with one car or a few cars and having a relationship with that car, which is much more closely related to real life. Whereas now this transition over time, games, and I'm talking about simulators, arcade racers, Need for Speeds, Forzas, any of them. The idea now is to collect hundreds of cars, as many cars as possible. And the thing that I dislike about that is you never build a relationship with one particular car. You'll race one or two races with it, not really do anything with it, jump to another series, get a completely different car, win a bunch of money, repeat, 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 until you've just got a bunch of cars that you can't even remember what you had. Now, I had forgotten really that games were like this back in the day, that the idea was to build a relationship with that car. Because it's been so long since I played games like that, I forgot that you used to build relationships with the car. And I know that sounds funny, and if you're younger, you know, quite a bit younger, which I know a lot of my viewers are, you may not even know what I'm talking about here, but that was a thing. And I miss that. Now, that being said, I had no interest in trying GT Sport because after the third one, they started going that route also. They started, I call it the fight between the GT, Gran Turismo, and Forza. It was this battle to see who could get the most cars into the game. You know what I mean? And that's like, for whatever reason, everybody's main goal. It's not quality of cars anymore in a game, whether it's on PlayStation or the PC or Xbox. It's not the quality of cars, it's the amount of cars. It's quantity over quality, which we really left the quality over quantity years ago. And like I said, I forgot about it. I know many people have forgot about it. The reason why I picked this up is because I don't think it's in frame, but over here to my left, I've got a Logitech G29 that I've been reviewing, or that I'm going to be reviewing soon. And to do a review on the Logitech, since I had no experience with it, I wanted to use it on consoles. I wanted to use it on the PC. I wanted to get all this knowledge before I did a review for you guys to know if it works differently on the PS4 than it does on the PC, or if it's basically the same experience across the board. But to do that, I had to get a console that the G29 was compatible with. So I got the PS4, and, you know, the standard game that you play that's racing-wise on a PS4 is GT Sport. So I picked up GT Sport, and that's how I ended up with GT Sport. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I fully expected to not enjoy playing this at all. I didn't think I was going to enjoy the game, just because I remembered, you know, that it was just not my cup of tea after the first few renditions. But I have to say, guys, and the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I was completely wrong. Of course, there's some obvious things that I'm going to point out right off the bat and get that out of the way. Are the physics as good as something like iRacing, Assetto Corsa, R-Factor? Hell no, they're not. They're not going to be that good. Are they good though? Yes, they're playable. They're for sure playable. So let's just get the physics out of the way. I'm not talking about physics here. Graphically, no issues here. It's one of the best visual games I have raced in a long time. And I'm just playing on a standard PS4, not even a PS4 Pro. Beautiful graphics. So physics out of the way, graphics out of the way, force feedback is okay. Keep in mind though, I'm used to using a direct drive wheel and a high-end Thrustmaster wheel. So because the force feedback may not feel that complete right now for me, is probably because I'm basing it on you know, other wheels I've used in the past. However, I'll make sure to remain unbiased as I'm reviewing the G29. But you know, as far as physics and force feedbacks and graphics, you know, most of you are going to already know what to expect when you're going to play a game like this. Now, I have not done any online on this game at all. I've got plenty of games I already do online on iRacing, Assetto Corsa. I just don't have time to do another game and concentrate online on another game. So I have been completely playing single player. That's all I've done. I've done the single player campaign, which from what I understand was not originally in GT Sport when it first came out. The community basically was outraged from what I read, and eventually the developers added the campaign into GT Sport. So it's been implemented recently, and that's all that I've been playing since I've had it. So the only experience that I have about the game is basically on the campaign. Now, I think because they kind of just put it in at the last minute and there wasn't a lot of thought process, that actually helped GT Sport's campaign out tremendously. Because instead of putting a huge thought process into some big storyline, or something crazy that most of these racing games have now, basically what they did is they just implemented the old single player into this newer game. And that is awesome. Because of that, there are so many things about the campaign of GT Sport that just bring back so many memories and are so similar to the Gran Turismo games that I loved playing. Gran Turismo 1, Gran Turismo 2. You know, it's just so similar, and I love the way it's designed. I love the very basic menu system and how you just pick what race you want to. You know what I mean? So because it's similar, I just really like the way it's not very complicated. You don't have to jump around, and there's not as many cars. So in this game, it's quality over quantity, which is hugely important. So no matter whether you're going to drive the Toyota Supra, or if you're driving S2000 or a Ford Focus, or whatever car you're going to be driving, the quality is the same on all of them, which is huge. And the other thing is, the main thing about this video is, for some reason, and I can't really explain it, but in the campaign in GT Sport, I get that old feeling of wanting to build a relationship with a car. And I really can't explain why that is, because it's not exactly like those older games. I'm not saying that everything that they had implemented in their single player is here in GT Sport, but a lot of it is. And because of that, you know, they start you out with a Ford Focus ST, which I assumed was going to be a car I'd get in, do a couple races, and move along, but I didn't. You know what? I've been racing a ton of races with that Focus ST because I feel like something about this title makes me want to continue to build that car up and put it in as many races as I can as I work my way up that rookie and pro and so on and so forth level. So, you know, that's really it, guys. I just wanted to make this video because if you haven't tried this and you have a PS4, I think you should. Especially if you're like around my age, early 30s to mid 30s, or maybe even a little bit younger or a little bit older, and you remember the way racing games used to give you an attachment to a particular car instead of rewarding you to drive so many cars and basically being a car collector. If you remember that and you enjoyed that, I think if you play the campaign here, I think you probably will end up with that same experience that I did. And it's really awesome. And so that's why, unfortunately, I've been actually playing a lot of GT Sport when I should be doing other things like getting these reviews done and stuff like that. But I've just been enjoying the heck out of it. Is it perfect? No. Is it going to stand up to a simulator? Of course it's not going to stand up to a simulator because it's not got that physics model built in quite like an iRacing or an Assetto Corsa. But is it good enough? Hell yeah, it's good enough. It's plenty good. And the campaign is awesome because it's simple. You know what I mean? So if you're somebody that's going out looking for a really extravagant storyline, then go play Need for Speed or go play Forza Horizon, which are all good games. I'm not saying anything bad about them, but that's just not what we have here in GT Sport. It's start out with a car that's a minimal cost, do some racing, make some money, put some performance parts on it, so I will talk about that really quick. We'll get on a side note here. One of the things I don't like about it is that you're not technically putting performance parts on a car. Now, they may change this in the future, but right now, the way it's implemented, it's not that detailed. It's basically just a slider for horsepower and a slider for weight. And as you drive, you get these points and money at the same time, and you can use those points to add value to those sliders. So, you know, if your peak horsepower was 250 horsepower as you race, you get these points that you can kind of stick into this slider bar, and then you could up the performance and up the performance. So while it's not that detailed, it does work fine. And that's not to say they may implement at some point an actual, you know, more detailed customization feature, but I don't really care. I kind of, the one they've got works fine. And of course, you can still tune every little intricate detail of all of these cars. Suspension geometry, transmissions, all kind of stuff. You can tune all of that stuff in just like you can in any other sim. So it's not that you can't precisely tune your performance in on the car. It's just as far as horsepower levels go and weight levels goes, they're simple sliders. Maybe they'll change that, maybe they won't. But again, it all goes back to being part of that very simplistic career mode that makes you want to continue with one car instead of grabbing a bunch of cars. And the very last thing I want to touch on is the sounds, because something that Gran Turismo has not had going for it ever is the sounds of the cars. A lot of people say it sounds realistic. Up until now, I've always said it sounded terrible, much like a vacuum cleaner. The cars were just awful. And watching videos online, I kind of thought it was the same story here with GT Sport, but it wasn't until I played it that I realized what was going on here. So, the sounds in GT Sport are actually pretty good. The cars sound pretty good. Is it as good as a Forza? Not quite, but they are pretty good, especially the interior cockpit cameras. The sounds are really, really good. But I think the noise that I was hearing in the videos is the transmission options. There's two transmission options. You can get a standard manual transmission in the cars, which takes a little longer for the, there's no option to use a clutch. So it's virtually doing the clutch. So there's time in between gear changes when you're using the manual. The only other option is just to put in, they call it like a mesh gear sequential or something like that. Basically a racing transmission. So it makes the shifting much quicker. So pretty much everyone, regardless if it's a Honda Civic, a Ford Focus, a Dodge Viper, a race car, whatever it is, everybody, I'm sure the first thing they do is changes the manual transmission over to the sequential transmission because you can shift much faster. The thing is, when you do that, it adds a transmission sound effect. So if you're not aware and you're watching a video like I was of somebody driving, let's say an S2000, and it's got that vacuum sounding noise to it, it's actually not the car engine. It's because they've swapped in that sequential transmission, which gives that gear whine, which that gear whine kind of overruns the engine sound. So that was my mistake in watching those videos. But if you keep it a manual transmission, the sounds actually sound pretty good. Now that being said, I have moved over to the sequential shifter because I'd rather have that performance aspect. But yeah, so I know this video was kind of all over the place, but what I'm saying here, guys, is if you haven't tried this and you have a PS4, you should try it. Especially if you are the kind of person that enjoyed the campaign and single player mode of Gran Turismo 1, 2, and 3. After that, like I said, they got off. They started getting in that race to see who could put the most cars in their games, and I don't care for that. I prefer the type of games that make me want to have a relationship with a few cars rather than a whole bunch of cars, and you really get to know that car and know how it handles and really precisely pinpoint how to drive that car. And the campaign mode will offer that to you in this game, and I love it. I've been having a lot of fun. Sadly, though, I have to get back to my normal thing here, and I have to get back to checking out various stuff and finishing reviews, so I won't be spending as much time, but I wanted to make this video before I got off of it and left it in the dust. Definitely check it out, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And also, don't forget, if you're looking to upgrade to a full racing rig or you need a wheel stand, don't forget to check out our partners in the description below, GT Omega Racing, and use discount code DAN, capital D-A-N, for a 5% discount on your checkout if you decide to order something, guys. So yeah, so go check it out. Thanks so much for joining in, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video. We'll see you.